Hello, my name's Monique, welcome to my channel. I have just gotten back from 8 months of travelling throughout Europe and the Middle East, and I've been collecting a patch from every country that I've been to. About halfway through my trip, I made a video sewing on all the patches that I currently had from all the places I had been. There were 15 patches at the time, but I have now been to like 13 or 14 more countries. And so I thought I would make another video sewing on the rest of my patches. And like last time, I'm gonna tell a little story as I sew them on. So first we have Greece. I flew from London to Greece. I had a wonderful time there. I was really only there for 3 days. I flew into Athens and then I went to Corfu, an island in the north of Greece near Albania, because I was going to take the ferry across. And I had a wonderful kind of relaxing time, not doing much, just chilling up in Corfu before I took the ferry. But I'm going to sew it on the bottom here. I think I can fit one more row of patches, and then I'm debating where to sew on the rest because I like how this looks right now. I've got other couple patches and I don't want it bombarded with just flags of different countries. But I'm thinking of sewing them here along this section, which should be very easy because I've only got to sew it like this, whereas currently it's a nightmare. So in order to sew on the patches down here, I've got to have my hand all the way down this laptop sleeve, which can be a bit of a struggle. So it took me 7 or 8 hours to sew on all the patches last time. And I really hope it doesn't take me that long this time, but that remains to be seen. So let's get started.
Will you be there to catch my fall?
Next we have Albania. I had an amazing time in Albania. Up until that point, Turkey had probably been my overall favourite country. Turkey, Ireland, Portugal, I loved them all. But Albania has such a special place in my heart. It was just awesome. I don't think I travelled alone the whole time I was in Albania. It just felt like true backpacker vibes, if that makes sense. Western Europe can be very isolating and you can feel alone in a big city and the hostels are but the Balkans, especially Albania, just have such a community vibe. And there's this very popular trek hike that starts in the north of Albania where you hike over a mountain from one small village to another. And oh my god, it was amazing. Since Croatia has become part of the EU and the Schengen zone, you can only stay in there for 3 months at a time, which means a lot of backpackers that used to go to Croatia to escape the Schengen zone are now coming to Albania. So it's becoming really popular, but it's still at that point where it's sort of a hidden gem, but full of backpackers and mostly Australians.
Need to be sure you'll hear my call. Darkness around me.
Alrighty. Next we have Montenegro. I only went to one place in Montenegro. I stayed in Kotor. I had heard about this other one, Ulsa, that has a very, very famous hostel, and I almost went there, but I had a set time to make my way north, and so I went straight to Kotor. And like I said in Albania, this kind of area, region, I just did not travel alone. There was always someone. If you're moving to the next place, you're like, oh, I'm taking that same bus, let's go. Oh, what hostel are you staying in? May as well book the same one. And so I really remember that old town. It was so lovely. It was a pretty nice hostel. And then when I left Montenegro, half the people I met there, I met further on in my trip as I went to different countries. And it's really kind of cool because everyone's going north to south or south to north. You're kind of like following the same trail. And so you see each other from one hostel to the next. That person might be a couple days ahead of you. So as you arrive, they're leaving. And then when you arrive at the next place, they're leaving again. It's kind of cool. You see lots of familiar faces.
To fool myself, I don't need grace. Will you be?
I sewed on the wrong patch. I sewed on the wrong one.
Darkness around me, and I don't know why it's so hard to let go.
Next we have Bosnia and Herzegovina. I can never say it, so I just say Bosnia, which makes me feel bad because it's not just Bosnia, it's Bosnia and Herzegovina. As I was leaving Bosnia, I messaged my dad asking him if he could please find out where in former Yugoslavia my nan's parents are from, because I've always known that they were Yugoslavian, but Yugoslavia as a country no longer exists. So I wanted to know what country that would be now. And as I was leaving Bosnia, heading to Croatia, he messaged me saying that not only has he found where they're from, but he actually had found a distant relative that wanted to see me. So within 2 days, I'd learnt that my nan's parents are from the border of Croatia and Bosnia, and that a woman named Katja wanted to meet me and show me around. And so I met her in Split. And so Croatia to me is just meeting this awesome woman and this different part of my family history. Again, I was only there for a short time, but it was really, really special to me and definitely has a big place in my heart.
Why it's so hard to let go?
I really wanted to get away from the cities and everything for a bit, and I could not have asked for a better place than Slovenia to do that. It's so beautiful. I went to Lake Bled, which is a famous lake there, and I spent several days just chilling around that place. It's so beautiful. There's such nice hiking regions around there, the color of the lake. And then I went back to the capital in Ljubljana, which is referred to as the city of dragons. Dragons are their like emblem and they're everywhere, and it's really cool, and it does have that like European magical castle kind of vibe. But after that, I went to Austria, just to Vienna. I needed to vote in the Australian referendum, and Vienna was the only capital that had in-person voting, so I had to time my trip to do with that. I voted, and then I went to some famous art galleries and just wandered around the city. It was a sweet time.
I know I'll meet you down the line. You'll ask why I wasted my time.
Just like in Austria, I only went to the capital of Hungary, Budapest. I feel like often people just go to the capital, which makes me feel like I can't really say that I've seen a country if I've just gone to the capital. But I have been there. I can't get over how big it is. Like, you walk down one block for half an hour and you don't feel like you're getting anywhere. Obviously, it's a place that a lot of people come to party, and I get why. I had a fantastic time there, met some awesome people, went out to a few clubs with them.
And I'll say I didn't know better, but the truth is I was weak and scattered, afraid of the blame. 29 years I've been the same.
From Hungary, my plan was to head up to Poland. I really wanted to go to Krakow and Auschwitz, but I hadn't really planned how to get there, and I thought I could just go straight up. But obviously there's a country and a mountain range in between. And so I ended up stopping in Slovakia for a few days. And while I'd been in Vienna, I'd heard a girl talking about a really wild, cool hostel in Bratislava that she'd just come from. And I was like, where's that? I've never heard of Bratislava before, which is crazy because it's like an hour from Vienna. It's the capital of Slovakia. It is so gorgeous. It's really cute, tiny little capital. It's really small, and I didn't even know about it, didn't know it existed. And I stopped there because I didn't want to spend like 16 hours on a train, but it's literally an hour from Vienna, and it was awesome. I was there for a night, so I was really in Slovakia for such a long time. Like, people ask me, how did you go to 29 countries? That's insane. I'm like, well, at least 5 of them were like day trips or like one night stopovers, so you know.
And I will not keep up the pace. To fool myself, I don't need grace.
From Slovakia, I of course went to Poland, and Poland really surprised me because I hadn't looked into it at all. I was just like, yeah, I want to go there. Sounds cool. And I arrived in Krakow at night as the sun was setting. It was about 5 p.m. and the light was gorgeous, and I had a really soft, comforting feel about it. And I was staying right in the center of Old Town. And I got there and I got chatting to people, and they told me a bunch of things to do. One of the days I spent in Auschwitz, which of course is very somber, but Krakow itself was just amazing. It was just such a cool place to be.
Will you be there to catch my fall? Need to be sure you hear my call.
And after Poland, I headed to the Czech Republic. I'd heard a lot about Prague. I had been eyeing it since the start. Prague, Budapest, I'd been like, oh, at the end of my trip, that's where I'm going, thinking about it for a long time. And I must say, Prague was awesome. I ended up going to the wrong hostel when I first arrived, but I found my hostel eventually. I met some awesome people that kind of took me under their wing. We went out, we had a great time, we explored the city. When I got kind of overwhelmed and tired of people, I just went for this long walk myself and ended up at this monastery, like a little bit out of the city, and got to walk back in that kind of twilight light. And it was just a good time.
Darkness surround me, and I don't know why it's so hard to let go.
have Germany. Originally my plan had been to go straight from Prague to Berlin. However, while I was in Prague and also in Krakow, 2 people mentioned that I should stop in Leipzig on the way and that it was their favourite part of their European trip. And so I was like, yeah, I've got time, why not? So I arrived in Leipzig and I don't know if I went to the wrong place or if it was just now that summer had ended, it kind of died off, or I didn't really stay in a good hostel, but it was dead. I don't know, it was fine, it was a place. From there I headed to Berlin. I've been thinking of Berlin for my whole trip, and I think maybe I thought it would be a bit more like Prague or Rome or Paris, but my experience in the city at the time wasn't. It was fall, which was beautiful, but it was very windy and wet and rainy, and I was staying in the historical section of Berlin, which was really nice to be able to see, you know, be quite close to all these places, but it's just, the city is so spread out that I was a long way from anywhere. The hostel was just full of like kids on a school trip and just, but in my head, Germany is the place that I met up with a bunch of friends. So on a previous trip, I met all of these women who live across Europe, and I'd been meeting up with them slowly over the course of my trip, and 3 of them are German. So I met up with one woman in Berlin, one woman in Hamburg, and then I stayed with another in Frankfurt. Not only was it cool to see Frankfurt with her and be able to drive and see the region around it, but one of my friends from high school was also in Frankfurt and didn't have a place to stay for the weekend. And so Stephanie kindly hosted both of us, and so I got to see my friend after 2 years, and we just had a great time. We were like, oh my god, how on earth are we meeting up here of all places? And then from there, I went to stay with Lisa, a girl I met in Dublin and then in London just by chance. And she'd offered to host me in Trier, and so I went out from Frankfurt to stay with her for a few days, and we did a little day trip to Luxembourg, which was the last country I visited, and she showed me around Trier, which I didn't even know of its existence, but it has so much history. It was once a major city in the Roman Empire. It's got all these famous people from history that were born there. It was amazing. And then the last part of my trip, I kind of went back to Zurich, Switzerland, and Paris, all the way back up to London to fly home.
To catch my fall, need to be sure you'll hear my call. Darkness surround me and I don't know why it's so hard to...
It's done. It only took me like 2.5, 3 hours today instead of 7. Anyway, the back is nice and complete. So I added the last row in here today, and I got my row of flags in here. But I do like how it still looks the same on the outside. I like it. And we can't forget about my little Australia flag here. This is the last project I have to do coming back from my trip. I put up my map yesterday of my trip. You can see where I've been, everywhere I've been. It's all traced along the map, and on the back it's names of everyone I met on the way. My trip is officially over, but it's okay, because this morning Mum and I booked flights to Scotland for halfway through this year. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked my video. Subscribe if you want to see any more videos. They're going to be less about traveling. They're going to focus more on my life at home for the next few months before I start traveling again. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. See you next time. Bye.
Why it's so hard